Jim's point now, as well too, that it's maybe meant more for the 11, 12-year-old or 10-year-old, and not as much for the 5 or 6 because of attention spans. So they animated it and directed it for the 5 or 6. The story was for the older kid.
Interesting.
You found the Untitled Film Project Podcast, where we say, go see the movie, then come talk about it with us. This week's movie, the latest from Pixar, Elio. A young and imaginative young boy feels like he doesn't belong anywhere, even on Earth, until aliens bring them to their galaxy, where he finds new friendships, and his adventures help him discover who he really is.
All I ever wanted was to find a place to fit in. It's like I was always meant to be here.
Gordon?
Hi, Dad. I'm a bargaining chip.
No, say the other thing.
Oh, help me, Father. He overpowered me.
After we talk about and score, Elio, we'll have the big question.
The big question this week, because, of course, this movie is about a young boy who's obsessed with space. When you were Elio's age, what were you obsessed with? Initial takes time. Jim, kick us off.
Elio felt like a Saturday morning Jimmy Neutron episode for 2/3 of the movie. It was very short attention span. I don't think there was anything on the screen for a second before it was a quick edit. The final chapter of the movie, I thought, redeemed it. I was moderately entertained.
I'll go second. I thought it had the same charm as most Pixar movies, but I thought it was less well-rounded. I thought it was an excellent story. I thought it was excellent adventure and just kind of flight of fancy. But the joking and the kind of subtle humor and those kinds of things seemed to be absent until maybe the last act. And I don't necessarily care, but I know a kid might, and therefore I kind of factor it in. That's my initial take on Elio.
I feel like there are going to be a lot of children and adults that are going to see themselves in Elio. And that's the important part to me, is people that are going through loneliness, loss, being the weird kid with unique interests and not belonging, the challenge of finding friends, the challenge of dealing with not knowing your place in this world. And I mean, that's literal for this movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an original story. People continue to moan and cry and please give us something that's original and not another sequel. Disney, Pixar, please give us this. And they give you one. It's predictable, but it's a family movie. I don't want to say children. It's a family animated movie. It's okay that it's predictable as long as you tell a good story and you put it in a unique fashion and you sprinkle some sci-fi in there. So that is original idea for Pixar. I mean, you have your Buzz Lightyear, right? But this one is original in terms of the way they're telling the story. And that's what I appreciate about it. Did it blow me away? No, it didn't. It didn't need to. I just wanted to see something finally original. It's been a while, and we haven't had a big animated film in theaters in, 3-4 months now. So it's been a bit, and you're going to have this summer movie season. So I think it accomplished its goal. My big beef with it is with Disney itself, and we'll talk about this more, in terms of making people aware of this original production that people always and moan about and complain about needing.
But they don't buy tickets for them.
They don't buy tickets.
They buy for sequels.
It
hurts me to say it.
No, you're right. We'll talk about it.
But it's the reality.
We'll discuss that and the reasoning why and things like that. But overall, I did enjoy it. People are going to connect, and it is important. It is not necessarily made for us, and that's understandable. It's made to connect with a certain audience, and so there are going to be plenty of people that find a connection to this, and I think that's what's important about making this movie.
All right, let's dig a little deeper into Elio, the new story brought to us from Pixar. And, what was it that you thought stood out to this movie, Bradford?
Gunther Melmac. What a connection. As soon as they said Melmac.
You said what?
Alf!
Yeah!
Oh my gosh.
What an Easter egg.
They put that in there.
I didn't even catch it.
My wife didn't either.
No.
First thing I said in the car, I was like, you know where Melmac is, right? She goes, what? And I go, an 80s sitcom? She's like, no. And I go, Alf? She's like, what? Oh, he was from Melmac. She goes, didn't even catch that.
When I was a child,
Yes.
and I was getting tucked in. No, hold on. Let me.
I wasn't expecting that.
When I was a child and getting tucked in, it'd be, with my parents, it'd be, I love you, with my dad, and like, I love you too. And I was like, I love you all the way to Melmac.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, that's adorable.
That is
So
fun.
that always stays in there. Melmac is always going to have a special place in my heart. So as soon as I was there, I was like, that's on purpose.
Yes, it is.
100%. You don't just make up Melmac.
And it's not a Disney property, which is even better. It kind of makes it more meaningful because it's not just they're promoting their own crap.
Right.
So like that right there, I was like, okay, you had some writers in the room that understand the science fiction reference and
Certainly have an age, by the way.
age,
Yes.
as well too, to understand it, because that was for the parents and the grandparents.
Pop quiz. What was Alf's real name?
Oh my gosh,
Oh, come on,
know.
dude. You know Melmac? You don't know his real name?
it's been a bit.
Jim, do you know it?
No, this is like a skit of
The correct answer
What was
is
Captain Kirk's locker number in episode 20?
come on.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, I know he does have a real name and it's a human name.
It's been
It
a
is.
while.
Yes, please.
Gordon Shumway.
That's right.
Back to Elio.
So there was that Easter egg.
That was a big one. That was a perfect.
It was
Easter
awesome.
egg.
Did you guys feel that the first 2/3 of this movie was as attention deficit as I felt when I was watching this movie?
I felt that more in Lilo and Stitch. And I think I said that on the show. Is that how it felt like ADHD cinema for about the first act at least, where it's just like, rah! And you're like, whoa. And then you realize, oh, okay, it's a symbolism of how the character arc goes. But this, I didn't get that with this one.
I will say it took a bit for me to connect. It did, and I think it's just because it wasn't necessarily meant for me because I didn't necessarily feel all these things growing up. I got a little bit of weird kid as an only child, but I never felt
Same.
like I was outside. Like I always had a good group of friends.
Same.
Right.
So I didn't connect in that way because I always had a good solid group of friends, of people that I connected with. And I think that's what made it for me not difficult to connect, but took more time for me to connect in this movie. So I didn't feel necessarily the ADHD qualities of it, but it took a while for me to really, in the third act, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm in. I've connected with the characters. I see what they're accomplishing here. I can appreciate it now. So I do see where you're coming from with the first two acts.
to me,
it took a bit.
it was edits per minute. Okay, or edits per second. I was actually counting. I'm going, oh my god, my eyes can't focus before the shot changes, and I was counting. They were 3/4 of a second was the average edit time for a good portion of this movie. When the movie dialed in, and it's kind of his return to Earth, and his aunt who's taking care of him, and there's these connections. All of a sudden, they're holding shots for 2, 3, 4 seconds, and that difference was incredible. In those earlier quick edit, here's a new alien. Here's a new alien. I'm farting. It's going. It's flying. It's falling. To me, it's impossible to connect on anything other than a superficial eye candy, fireworks going off level. When it's slowed down and actually focused, I thought this movie became watchable.
Which is interesting because I actually had the opposite. Not that it was not ADD, but opposite meaning I thought it was too slow. And I don't mean for me. I'm 48. Okay, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's fine. I really liked the Flight of Fancy, all that. But it was too slow. I thought it was too slow for kids. So there were not my 13-year-old son, but there was like a 5, 6-year-old girl in front of us. And there were a couple, a sibling group up, a couple rows above that were probably 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And there was some talking. And it's a kid's film. You're gonna have that. That's fine. But I remember thinking of them when I'm watching it. I'm like halfway through, and I'm like, God, this doesn't seem like it. Maybe it's the lack of humor. The lack of a true hook. I understand that. Okay, like he's going off planet and all. The characters are fun, for sure. But there's no kind of comic relief C-3PO or anything. There's just no kind of or Rocket. There's no kind of character that's my main character that is supplying that kind of infusion of break the tension or whatever. It was almost like it was a borderline kids drama for the first half of the film at least. And I remember thinking, this seems slow.
Because we don't meet Gordon for a while.
Right.
It takes a bit
And
to
he
get to him.
and his character introduces that, I'm naive, so I'm funny, I'm this, I'm that. And it was fine. But up until that point, it was kind of like, I don't know. There's a characteristic lacking.
Yeah.
From the formula that I'm used to with Pixar movies. And take Pixar movies out of it. Just kids movies and family movies in general. There's always this kind of character who's off to the side. He's usually a supporting character, and he kind of jumps in, and it's funny. Or whatever, or he strokes an amusement. And then, of course, inevitably at the end, he has some big life, lesson. Or whatever. But that's how it's set up. And it kind of was absent in this one.
Yeah, it's not like they had that character and the jokes didn't land. The character didn't really exist.
Correct.
There's a few other characters that come close and chime in, like Gordon and maybe an odd alien or two. But they just made that conscious decision not to have that element.
So curious as I scroll through here, and I want to give just this person credit. It's on Rotten Tomatoes. It's an audience reviewer. To your point, Dover, this comes from Michelle, who's a verified reviewer. Says the movie itself was very cute, but for a kid movie, I feel like an adult would understand more than an actual kid. There was a lot of talking going on, definitely colorful scenes. So it kind of goes to the point of a little more depth, but it's not for attention span purposes. To Jim's point now, as well too, that it's maybe meant more for the 11, 12-year-old. Or 10-year-old, and not as much for the 5 or 6 because of attention spans. So they animated it and directed it for the 5 or 6. The story was for the older kid.
Interesting.
Sorry, I just came to that conclusion myself.
No, I like that.
Because the attention span, you have to have quick edits for kids nowadays. You
Yes.
see cartoons have changed.
Oh, yeah.
For more quick edits on
Quick edits.
the typical
The characters are exaggerated. They're screaming instead of talking.
But the story itself and the dialogue is definitely more towards an older kid.
Yes.
Just really, when you analyze the dialogue,
There's like a bell curve,
Right.
kind of here.
so it's like, where do you find the happy medium in terms of where you're going to make this movie fit?
And if you think about it, I guess that makes sense because if you're 4 or 5 years old, you're not conscious enough to think that you're alone. I think you're naive enough in human life to
you make friends pretty quickly too.
You may have had loss. I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just saying that I think
it's less likely. You've had less life experience.
Casting a wide net. Yeah, you don't quite understand.
being
Whereas you're
aware.
9 or 10 when you're coming into your own.
Right.
You do feel like, I've been at school for 3 or 4 years. I don't have any friends.
It's
or whatever.
It's the coming of age of you being aware of your loneliness.
That's
as well.
right. So they said it makes sense.
Time to score Elio. Gover.
It's very touching. Clearly laid out the premise, like the goal, but without the preaching element. It didn't preach it. It didn't slam you over the head with it. At least I didn't think so. It was very well done, I thought. Fun characters, well-written story, but also, like we talked about, missing a major element like the comedy for the younger generation. Missing anything unique, really. Like, yes, it's an original story. It's not a sequel. It's not, all that. But we've kind of seen all this before, right? Which I don't even know if I should even take points off anymore because it's 2025. All the ideas have been done. But then we say that, and then something comes along like Flow, for example, and you're like, never seen that before, and that's what you crave. It's something that's a little bit different. So here's what I will say about it. I love how you felt the loss of Elio and his aunt without seeing the loss. I love that. It was classic Pixar in that way. You don't have to see the tragedy or have it even implied, to be honest. Like you see his parents.
already exists.
Yeah, you're seeing his parents in a car or something, and then all of a sudden this kind of sweeping crane shot comes back, and then all of a sudden they're at a funeral. Like nothing. Like it's just, you just feel the loss. It's already happened, and you still feel it. It's so great. But again, at the end of the day, we've seen all this before. You're gonna enjoy it in the theater. Your young ones might not. 6.5 for me.
Okay. I definitely think this is a kids movie. I haven't said that with a lot of Pixar movies. I've really thought that they were able to kind of rope everybody in. I don't think if you are an adult who enjoys good animated movies and you don't have a child, I don't think this is going to be a really fun couple hours for you. I think you need a child to really appreciate it. I didn't think it was aimed at anything above, 12, 14. I thought this was rushed. There was too many things going on. It somewhat redeemed itself in the last third of the movie when they really focused on the emotion, when everything's starting to come together. People are starting to understand each other. I'm going to give it a entertaining 6.
Okay, I have to disagree with you, Jim. I don't think you need a child, because I feel like if you can find the child within yourself, if you've gone through loss, if you've gone through feelings of loneliness through life, you don't need a child to be able to understand that. This movie, while I think the story itself could target the younger adults or preteens, I feel like if you can find it within yourself to appreciate a story, then you can enjoy it. I'm not saying it's elite or anything like that,
right?
But I do need to disagree with that point, because as someone that doesn't have children, I can still appreciate that as well too, as maybe as an only child. While I didn't have loneliness, I still have my weird things about me, and now I have to entertain myself.
Which we're going to get to.
But my thing with this, there's a couple things that I wanted to make sure we bring up till we get to scores. Throughout the film in the music, because hello, music guy, I felt plenty of elements in the score by Rob Simonson, who also did Deadpool and Wolverine, of E.T. I don't know if you guys heard some of the chord progressions.
On
that
purpose.
felt very much on it's sci-fi, right? And also 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like there are so many elements within the score, which I appreciate, because it's like, okay, not everyone's going to notice that, or subconsciously you're going to notice that as well too, because it's supposed to be some whimsical nature to it as well. Very much space, science fiction, and I feel like there's a certain amount of people that are going to pick up on that. So I just want to say I see you, Rob, and I appreciate what you did there.
I like what you did there.
I like what you did there with the music, because you just take those elements of things that people know and their brain knows, even if they don't realize they're hearing it. But just certain chord progressions stick with you when it comes to musical scores, right? The marketing aspect behind this is curious to me, because if you're movie people, we've been seeing Elio teasers for a while.
Yeah.
If you go to the movies, you know. But they did not blast this out there, because you also had Lilo and Stitch was just released less than a month ago.
Right.
From Disney. And people are saying, well, I've known about this movie. Like, okay. But have you really known about this? Like, Lilo and Stitch was put in your face every single day. I feel like Disney chose, and for good reason, because Lilo and Stitch is making really good money. But it almost feels like there's this separation out of some of these Pixar projects where they're going to be okay if it's not a summer blockbuster. Because you know damn well when the next Toy Story comes out, there's going to be so much promotion behind it. So much, because it's Toy Story. It's a franchise that just continues to roll. Even it should have finished after 3. It's going to continue to go because it makes money, as Jim even said. People buy tickets
to the known commodity,
to the sequels, to the known things, but people complain all the time, but they don't buy tickets. But it's not only the people's fault; it's also Disney at fault, because they're also not putting the same amount of backing and support behind this, and they're making a strategic decision for certain reasons. But
they're throwing it behind the horse that they know is going to be very successful. Like, should I spend a lot of money to teach people about Elio, or just pound home Lilo and Stitch 2, which we know is a proven commodity?
And they're still doing it. You know what? Take risks, take chances. That's what makes studios great. Disney has been great when they take some risks. DreamWorks, Sony, they've all been great when they take risks. Look at what Shrek did. It took a risk at going after Disney. They truly, they're attacking the whole fairy tale scene there, and I mean, it made DreamWorks what it is.
Yeah.
Shrek did.
Illumination. They threw a risk at a minion that doesn't talk.
Yeah.
They're probably like, yeah, he's cute. Let's do something with him. And next thing you know, there's like 27 films.
So take risks, tell new stories, tell stories that connect with people. And Elio will connect with people. Yep. Turning Red connects with a certain segment of people, and that's okay. It's okay for it to connect. Just tell good stories, and people will show up, and people will continue to connect and remember. It doesn't have to be for everyone. That's totally okay. But if you continue to make good stories and good new stories all the time, you're eventually going to continue to connect with everyone here, where they have the one movie. They're like, you know what? When I was growing up, this meant so much to me because I saw myself in this character. That's what I want more of. People appreciate it, continue to take risks. For Elio, I'm giving it a 7. because I overall enjoyed my time. It's not going to be as memorable, but it's important for the people that will connect to it.
Now it's time on the Untitled Film Project Podcast to answer the big question.
Elio was obsessed with space and being abducted and finding a place in the universe and all those things. And so we are asking you on this episode of the Untitled Film Project Podcast, when you were Elio's age, we figure what, guys, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that general 10 years old area. When you were 10 and Elio's age, what were you obsessed with? It can be as boring, air quotes for radio, if it's just a sport. But it can also be as intricate as something crazy. So we want to know, what were you obsessed with when you were Elio's age? Let's start with Jim.
Oh, okay. You're going to go really old school. I don't even know. To me, this seems like another person that wasn't even me, but it was me. I have to own it. 10 years old, it was 1976. So right before Star Wars came out, I was obsessed with big rig trucks.
Oh,
I was like, oh, I could wear you out with, do you that's a Kenworth cab over, and with the chrome package, and like, oh no, that's Peterbilt. Peterbilt's, they're good too, but and America was obsessed with trucks. There was like BJ and the Bear and convoy movies and CB radios. Why? How? We didn't have the internet. That's all I can say.
Did you have toys? Did you have plenty of big rig toys?
Oh, I had toys. I would build models of them. I found a truck dealership that sold Kenworth trucks that I rode my bike to, and I heard that there was a truck show for like truck executives and things like that. Not even a general public thing. They didn't even advertise it. And I said, can I get a ticket to go to that? And I did. My dad brought me and spent a Saturday at a truck expo.
Wow.
That's awesome, Jim.
Was not expecting that.
Yep. I wanted a monkey, BJ and the Bear, to drive along with me in my big rig truck.
And now we know
Now
that's
you
not
know.
a good idea. Bradford, you want to go next or you want me to go?
I can go.
Okay.
I can go. Okay. So obviously, as an only child, there were a few things that I had to entertain myself with. I'll name a couple really quick. So I'd build bridges with household items in the house, like canned goods, books, things like that. I'd build big
Structural
bridges,
engineer.
Structural engineer. Didn't have the math to go with it. I'm not that kind of Asian. But I would do it with household items. Like every kid obsessed with dinosaurs would get those flashcards in the mail. Like, can I order more? It's only like 15 cents per card. Like, use the starter pack. You're good. Weather. Very obsessed with weather and
nerd.
clouds.
Cool.
That tracks.
And I'm still obsessed with
He's
weather.
still into that.
Still into that. But the big thing for me, especially like through like late elementary and early middle school, maps. Obsessed with maps.
Okay, that's good because you were really condescending and scolding of Gover and I about not knowing a certain country that exists.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not just like collecting maps. Like anytime we enter a new state, we have to stop at the Welcome Center and get a map because it's probably updated from the last year and want to make sure all the roads are there.
And hopefully your parents are like, free collectibles? Absolutely, we'll stop.
So like it'd have all the maps in different versions, like version 1991, version 1992. You get the new Tennessee one's like, well, we got to come back when we're entering and you got to get the new version of the map, okay? Like this is a big deal to me because I'm like, we saw construction last year. So I want the updated version of the map.
I want the
Was there a
road.
Filipino translated version?
Wow. No, it did not say lumpia and longanisa this way. Right. But with that map obsession,
you were into it.
I also started making my own maps.
Oh.
That was my big thing.
Really?
This is
a cartographer.
This tracks for only child though. I would make my own imaginary maps. Like I'd develop my own world. Based on these maps. So I was obsessed with SimCity, SimCopter, all these different simulation builders and world builders. But I'd make a map, and basically cities would be named after my friends.
Oh.
And so I'd have a legend, like I would draw the interstate highways and make state and national parks, city limits, I'd have new states, toll bridges, tollways, expressways, state highways, county roads, local roads, all these different types of things drawn differently throughout it. And then to add on to that, I would take the map, and I made a map that I'm not even kidding was 4.5 feet, like this way, like tall, and about 3.5 feet wide, like huge, just out of paper that
I'm thinking of like those maps you fold out when you get a new Zelda game. You know,
huge maps,
turns
different
into a poster.
countries.
Yeah.
And then when it was a snow day, I would record a newscast, and I'd use that map to talk about the traffic.
Oh, that tracks. And the weather in that land.
And the weather in that land.
Nice.
I would toss to myself.
And now to me doing this other thing.
And now to Justin Bradford with the weather. Thanks, Justin. If you look over here at Bradfordville.
Let me ask you, do you have some of these maps still?
I still do.
It's like somewhere?
Somewhere.
Okay.
Yep. It's nice and folded up and everything.
Of course.
On a different
it's not a
version.
map if it's not folded up.
Well, and here's the thing, too. You know, like when you get your big maps, how you'd have the zoom-in version on a metropolitan area?
Yes.
I had separate versions for some of these cities that I have to mimic what I wrote in the big version.
Oh,
and then have the zoom-in version
That's
so you
next
get the
level.
cities.
The detail, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, mine is along the same, in the same vein, kind of. It's not maps, but I was watching Unsolved Mysteries one day as a kid, and the theme scares me still today, by the way. But I saw my very first Unsolved Mystery story was a UFO story, and I was fascinated by it. And then I started learning more about UFOs. Remember, again, no internet, okay? And I started my own magazine. I own UFO magazine.
Wow.
$1 a year. For $1 a year, I would send you this handwritten, because that's, I mean, you know, again, we don't have computers and stuff.
Yep.
So $1 a year, you get a handwritten magazine with columns and, you know, bylines and the whole thing, right? And it was all based on stories that I'd either seen on TV or in the newspaper.
That's awesome.
And I actually did have 2 subscribers, by the way. So there was like
Were they family members?
No, that's what I'm saying. So I think it was Highlights Magazine. If I had that wrong, I apologize. But it was some sort of kids focus magazine of some kind, and you could take out an ad for free. You just wrote in and say, oh, you know, I'm looking for, you know, whatever it is, right? Because again, pre-internet, right? And I wrote in and said, I have a UFO magazine. That's $1 a year, and you know, here's the address. And I got 2 $1 bills in the mail. Subscribers.
That's incredible.
And I was able to. I had to duplicate the magazine now. It's handwritten out, so I had to duplicate whatever I wrote on the first one. I had to go. And then do it again on the second one and staple it together like a bind and then send it in the mail. And I ended up, I think I did probably 3 different issues, I think, before I let it go. But that's what I did. I was obsessed with, I guess you could take it. 1, I was obsessed with UFOs.
Yeah.
But 2, I was obsessed with doing what I basically do now.
That tracks too.
For being a writer. I wanted to be a writer and write
Yep.
stuff. And that's what I did. I made my own magazine.
You had a
love
fan
that.
base.
I love that.
Even though fan base was Rodney and Timmy.
Yeah. But hey, let me tell you, there's no joy like being a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid opening the mail. There's a crisp dollar bill in there. And they want what you're selling, your product. That's a pretty big.
And Rodney and Timmy probably have a UFO podcast right now.
They
too.
probably do.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Shout out to Rodney and Tim.
Yeah, and they're going, well, you know, shout out to that kid named Jeremy Gover for starting us off on this journey.
And a fun fact, I still use Jeremy K. Gover in that, by the way. It said gay on it. I've used that since the beginning.
The K stands for knowledge.
Knowledge.
Shout out to Hal Gill, former NHL player, for that. So we want to hear about yours. What was your obsession when you were, again, 9, 10, 11, whatever that age group was for you, right? Elio, obsessed with space in the movie and aliens and being abducted and finding a place. You've heard all of ours. What is yours?
Hit us up on socials. It's Jim Chandler now.
It's Gover time.
Justin B. Bradford.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit us up in the comments. Definitely tell us, what were you obsessed with and how far did your obsession go? Did you create your own magazine? Did you produce your own newscast where you toss to yourself? Did you go to a private truck show for interstate magnets?
What did you do? We want to know about it. Hit us up here or here.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.